So one of the deals was I would do the intro PowerPoint, even though I knew you guys didn't love PowerPoint, as long as I could do something technical as well to redeem myself in the same day. So, all right. I'm going to set myself up here, and we're going to go through how application visibility and some of the tools work in Hive Manager. So I guess I'm supposed to also tell you that I'm Abby Strong, and I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager at Aerohive. And let's go through this. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Yes. I didn't mean to put that up there, but hey, that's my baby. He's 1 today, so I can't believe it. I made it a whole year.
Can't believe you're at work.
What's that?
I said, I can't believe you're at work. We're important. I feel so special.
All right. So, as Praveen mentioned, when you first log into Hive Manager, I can't sit and talk. I just can't do it. All right. When you first log into Hive Manager, we drop you on our dashboard. And the dashboard has a couple of cool elements that we really focused on for usability, especially when you have multiple admins managing a network. And again, remember, whether you have 1 device or 10,000 devices, you only need a single instance of Hive Manager, whether you're using our cloud or your own installed in your data center or your NOC, it will be accessible via the cloud. So drop you on this dashboard. We have this concept of perspectives across the top so that you can sort information based on what's interesting to you. We pre-create 4 of them with interesting information in them, but if you are interested in other types of information, you can delete them if you want to. You can edit any of them, or you can create your own. You can have up to 6 different perspectives there's hundreds of widgets that you can choose from. So I'm just going to hit cancel. And once you're within a widget, one of the other great things about it is that we allow you to sort based on context that's already in use in Hive Manager, so that you can say, okay, here's the information on my applications, but I want to see the information that's specific to the people on this particular map, connected to APs that are on this map, or I want to see information of people that are part of this policy. And you can even sort it based on, okay, now I've chosen what map they're on, or what building they're in, and I want to see just the employee traffic at that location. So it allows you to get more and more granular about what you're actually seeing on the network. So as you can see, I am now looking at application information for people located in our Jamaica conference room. And I could sort based on profile, but I want to just get an idea of saying, okay, we've got some very active users on this network. Let's see, awful lot of YouTube going on. So what's happening here? Let's take a look at who's using all this YouTube. Oh, Andrew.
Always me.
It's always you. Such a troublemaker. But, Jennifer, you've got a fair amount of YouTube happening as well. Interesting. We'll have to see what's...
Well, it's actually just a few kilobytes.
It's just a few kilobytes, right?
Not a ton. But,
not as much as Andrew.
But I can see, what applications. And then if I click on Andrew's name, I can actually see even more granular information, such as, what user profile he's part of, what applications he has in use on that machine, how many different devices he has connected, what SSIDs he's connected to. So you get more and more granular information about what's happening on the network. And then what's great about Aerohive is that we don't just give you this information, we allow you to react to it. So you can go over to the policy and say, you know what? I don't want this much YouTube on my network. So you go into your network policy, and this is a unified policy. You create your wireless configuration, then you can move down into configuring your switch, your routers, your firewalls, reusing all of the same objects. So even if you have multiple network policies, even if you have multiple different types of Aerohive devices, one of the great things about it is that you can apply consistent permissions to the people connecting to your network, regardless of which of our devices they're connecting to. So,
and then how do you break that out if you don't want to apply them to everything?
If you don't want to apply the same permissions, you can just create different user profiles and apply them to the switches versus the access points. It's up to you. Everything, so yeah, if you go into a user profile, this is where we assign things like what VLAN they're going to be on, their firewall policy, their QoS settings, tunneling. We can say anybody connected with this profile automatically gets GRE tunneled out to an AP in the DMZ, for example. And all of that, by the way, that I've just talked about, is all included with HiveOS, as we were getting badgered a little bit about feature licenses, but everything that you just heard about is part of Hive OS and Hive Manager. You can also come in here and create firewall policies. And as Praveen was mentioning, they're very, very granular down to the type of application that's being used. And one of my favorites to display is something, like, let's go in here, like Facebook, because there's a lot of different pieces of Facebook. And so one of the great things about the way that we do this with deep packet inspection rather than just using DNS or URLs is that we can actually differentiate between saying, okay, I do want to allow you to post to your wall. We love social media here, but I don't want people playing Candy Crush, while they're at work. So you can actually say no Facebook apps or no Facebook chat, but still allow posting to the Facebook wall. So you get that level of granularity with this solution. Once you have your policies configured, of course you can apply them. You can apply them to all your devices, subsets of your devices. We have this awesome classification tagging system that allows you to create multiple policies and say, okay, the ones that are tagged with conference rooms get one piece of the policy versus ones that are tagged with cubes can have a different type of a policy. So very flexible configuration, all object-based so that you can reuse those objects.
Is it possible to do some sort of bulk import with the tagging? And so you can say like all of the devices that are in this VLAN or this IP range or this MAC, whatever?
Yes, we can import to configure tags, yes, so that you don't have to do that manually.
Abby, are you able to look at encrypted traffic as well?
We can look at encrypted traffic. One of the great ones to test that out is BitTorrent, especially because it decides what ports it's going to use or whether or not that traffic is encrypted or not. We can still detect that it's BitTorrent and block it. One of the other cool things about this is that we don't care how you access that BitTorrent. So whether you're using an app, whether you're using a web client, whether you're using another way to get to BitTorrent, we can detect that. And that's something, again, that really differentiates us from other solutions that are out there is that, people confuse it a lot with a URL filter. We're not doing URL filtering. We're actually detecting the signature of the application and, and allowing you to decide how you want to interact with that, including if you don't want to block it outright, just creating QoS policies to say I want to rate limit this traffic. I don't care if you use YouTube, but I don't ever want it to be 60% of my traffic. Make it 2% of my traffic.
So I have to ask, and I hope it's not too thorny of a question, but by not talking about whose engine you use, isn't that kind of limiting your story a little bit?
Well, I will let Praveen answer that question.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's basically what we do with the data and how we visualize that or how we present it and what policies we apply is kind of the most important thing. Essentially, we are using a best-in-breed third-party vendor, right? I mean, there are some contractual obligations, other things. But we are able to do the same level of deep-level classification that any other vendor could do, possibly, and keep up with that detection piece. But that's only half of the story, right? I mean, what we do with it and how do we apply policies based on what we do with it is kind of the real.
Abby's emphasizing it's not just URL and it's not just this and that. But again, I don't mean to quibble about it. And it's not really what we're here to talk about. But by not being able to tell the whole story, you're saying, trust us. And that's...
Well, you can test it out yourself. I mean, the thing is...
I'm with you. So I'm sorry to take you there.
No, that's fine.
It's a good question, and we're always happy to talk to you under NDA. Any information that you'd like to discuss. All right.
Can you export, like if I build a profile for some voice classification, can I export that out to a config file to reuse it across different?
Oh, more importantly, you don't even have to export it. You can just do a clone. So let's say you do create this amazing policy, and you want to reuse it again. So let's say add or remove. I've created that Aerohive policy. It's already in use. I can just clone it.
Well, I'm talking to a different customer, different Hive manager. I've already built my voice classifications and things like that. I want to be able to take it, say I've built this for you, take it, put that in my collection. I go to another client. They want the same type of policy, import.
Not currently, but this is the guy to hear that request. So
interesting idea and consideration. I mean, there are some things we're thinking about in terms of how we can do more cross-pollination of policies. Cloning happens to be the most common use case where we see, so which is why I actually built that feature in.
And then keep in mind, if you have multiple network policies in the same Hive Manager, you can just reuse that object, and you don't have to worry about them staying consistent. It'll have the same changes that you make in one as in another, because that's with cloning, you're actually saying at this point in time, now make a new one. Yeah. So a couple other cool things, just to show off a little bit of what Hive Manager can do. You have this single instance up in the cloud. One of the things I always love are these integrated tools. Whoa, I'm on the wrong system. Should probably just mirror my desktop, but somebody already laughed at me for that. So a couple of things that are integrated again in Hive Manager is our planning tool. You can upload floor plans, draw on your walls, figure out how many access points you're going to need for anything. One of my favorites are the server access tests. This comes up a lot, especially as we're starting to say, hey, use more 802.1x, especially for client management. You get the user that goes, I can't get my device online. And you're going, is it the problem with the device? Is it the supplicant? Is it the access point? Do I have the right VLANs enabled? So one of the features that we have integrated into Hive Manager, and actually Hive Manager is just front-ending this. It's actually the access points themselves that are running this test and just reporting it back through CapWAP, is remember our friend Jane and her super secure password. So I can actually say, okay, yes, the Radius server is reachable. I'm getting a user attribute. This tells me what user profile I'm going to assign, and also what the session timeout is for that user. So you can test right from the AP, hey, does that user's credentials work? What user profile are we going to assign to them? And we'll spit it all back to you. And then you know where to start troubleshooting if there is a problem.
From a simplify standpoint, that user attribute, wouldn't it be better to display that in English instead of as a number value?
Well, when you get a return from a Radius server, it does come as a numeric value, right?
But it's going to get converted when I'm reading it as a human. I didn't call my profile 12. I called it employees.
But you could have multiple profiles that have the number 12 used in different policies, right? Because the only restriction is you can't have the same SSID with the same attribute applied to multiple user profiles, but you could have 3 different policies that have 12, and in one place it assigns employees and one's so it would be difficult to correlate that. I suppose we could do all the options, but
that get tricky.
Yeah, I haven't thought. So one of the other things, just wanted to show you guys quickly in case you hadn't seen it, because it is new to us in 6.0, was our Google Maps integration for our topology maps. This is something, especially if any of you have ever struggled waiting for your customers or people to give you floor plans so you could get started of how many devices they were going to need. One of the great things that you can do now is add in, and it looks like we already have one. Awesome. You get the full Google Maps integration. Type in an address. We will drop you on a Google Maps. You can come in, draw a perimeter around that location. Create a floor plan, and we'll immediately give you that floor plan to start with. It'll be auto-sized for you. You put the walls in that you need, and then you can just hit how many APs am I going to need to cover this area, and based on whether or not you want it for voice or location tracking. Just say, if I had no walls, that's how many 121s I would need for this building. Little things to, again, that focus on simplify. Are there other things that you guys would like me to show you quickly before we move on to the next section?
Nothing to do with multiple floors.
Oh, of course we have multiple floors. And absolutely, and we account for 3D variability too. So you can add floors below. You can tell us how high your ceilings are, what your floor attenuation is. So absolutely, we have that. And then when you're done, one of my favorite things, let's see if it'll come up. You can actually see how many APs we're expecting, what the coverage plan is going to look like, what your square footage is. So yes, and that'll build out per floor for you.
All right, next up, Andrew's going to give us a little bit of a demonstration of the application visibility and control.
I'm not nearly as dexterous as Abby is, so I'm going to have to sit down to drive here. I'm really impressed with your ability to draw a map while not looking at it.
I was stunned at how quickly you banged that out. I can't do that anywhere near that quick.
I'm Andrew Garcia. I'm another member of the tech marketing team here at Aerohive. Abby has shown you the application visibility portion of our application visibility and control feature. I'm just going to give you a real quick demo of some of the capabilities on the control side. She has already walked you through some of the configuration of our policy. So my client right now is, I can't actually see my SSID, but I am sharing the, where is it? Not showing. I'm sharing the same SSID, the WFD5 access that you guys are. I'm using IDM for my credentials, the same as you guys are, but my key is part of a different group, so I'm directing into the Aerohive group, whereas you guys are all in the attendee group. So I've created a policy here that shows some of the intricacies of the policies that we can create. She showed you the game policy, and the thing I wanted to focus on there was the Zynga. So maybe you've gotten tired of having messages coming in about how people's farm bills are doing, or how great they're doing at Words with Friends. Oh geez. So we can actually create a rule where you can come in and you can use Facebook. You can get the information that you want from the social part of it, but you can block the games from Zynga. So you can come in and Farmville or Word from Games is just kind of time out on you. Whereas you can still, let's see, we'll duplicate this tab. You could still do a different game if you wanted to do. So we have that kind of, from a different vendor. Candy Crush is not from Zynga. It's from some company called King.com. So this works, whereas the Farmville one should not.
Can you just block all game requests for me so I never have to see that crap?
We do have the Facebook apps capability that is built in, so you might be able to do it that way. We do have a number of different game rules that you can create.
And Farmville is a basic human right. You don't block that.
Oh, Lord, you do.
You don't.
Kel has an entirely purple farm. It's spectacular.
All eggplant.
Yep.
All the time.
There are lots of sheep in Netherlands as well. Do you happen to have those in your Farmville?
You got what in my Farmville?
Sheep.
Sure.
So one of the things that I find would be very appealing is maybe to add Xbox Live to it, and then you could deal with all the issues where the Xboxes want to have the one data rate, whereas everything else can survive on a better data rate. So you can take care of that just by blocking the application service. But you can see other games work, whereas Farmville doesn't. One thing that is, as an administrator, is troubling whenever you're blocking a service. When something straight out doesn't work, it could wind up being a support call. So oftentimes, we recommend, instead of blocking outright, especially for stuff that's not malicious but just time wasting, that maybe what you want to do instead is to create a throttle rule so they can have a little bit of access to it, but a crappy experience. Or for video, maybe you want to provide a low bandwidth resolution, but not provide high def. So they're only using 300 kilobits per second on YouTube versus something higher. So on my user profile, I've also created a QoS rule for throttling for YouTube. So we can actually, the rule that I set in place was for 300 megabits per second. I've been playing with this a little bit over the last couple days, and finding that the 144 rate works pretty well at that, but anything that is higher data rate tends to struggle a little bit. The advertise is not working at all. Hey. Anyway, you get an experience. It's slow. They're more likely to go away.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but back to your point, I mean, this is one of those things where if you make it crappy, that's a service call. It's as much as blocking it. I mean, I know it's a philosophy.
It's definitely a philosophy. I mean, with something like YouTube, I don't know that you necessarily want to block it outright. I mean, if you think about a school case, maybe teachers have set up channels that have educational resources that they want to get, but they're still trying to support a ton of students that are going to be on the same AP because they're in the same class.
When you start having those discussions, though, about what you're doing, I know you can't do this, but boy, wouldn't it be nice if you could put something on everybody's screen. You've been throttled. You know what I mean? Something that takes all the confusion away. You can't do it.
I mean, there are workarounds to it. You could have a captive web portal that makes it very obvious at the start, saying your YouTube is going to be confined to a minimum. Please switch your bandwidth usage to 256p or something like that. Have you guys seen this video, actually? This is a middle school production of Breaking Bad.
Tim and I lost him to blue.
Ew. Anyway, yeah. So with the high def services, you're definitely not going to get anywhere with a throttle this low set, but at 144p, if you crank it down, I've generally found that the video caching will stay slightly ahead of where the student needs to be in watching the video.